right, guys, welcome back to Skepdicks. This is episode 11. Today it's just me and Tom. Also, there's a little small person right here next to me. This is my niece, Blue. She's going to be in on today's recording. And we're going to be talking about Skinwalkers, which is a Navajo folk legend thing that's very interesting and has taken some root in, like, American conscious, particularly in the western United States and the Southwest. Anyway, that's our topic. How you doing today, Tom?
Doing good. A little sleepy, but doing great. Sleepwalking, not skinwalking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So this guy just got off of a 12-hour night shift, and he jumped right into recording. I, on the other hand, also had to do something very difficult to be here. I had to wake up after like 7 hours of sleep instead of like 8. So we're making equivalent sacrifices is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So Tom, what do you, I guess off the top, like what do you know about Skinwalkers?
I did a little research last night.
Sick.
I didn't know much. I just, all I knew about skinwalkers yesterday was that people tend to see them or actually not so much see, but mostly like hear weird noises and blame them on skinwalkers.
Sure.
So I didn't know that it was a Native American of Native American origin,
Mm-hmm.
which was pretty interesting to find out. And so I didn't know much. I definitely heard a lot of people's experiences, but it's never consistent besides the weird noises and like kind of like just anything that comes across as creepy. It's like a general tag that people can say.
Absolutely.
On the spectrum, I mean, from the get-go, I am very skeptical.
What would you say out of 7?
7.
7? Okay, cool.
I would go 8, as in I would almost like promise that it was a fact. Like
yeah.
That it's I don't know. I feel like it's just like I said, it's a general tag. It's just
Totally.
it's an easy out for anything that comes across as creepy. It's just easy to be like skinwalker.
I have stuff come across my TikTok feed that's like proof skinwalkers are real, and it's just like animals acting weird. Like it'll be like an animal with rabies or something. It's just like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. I googled it like skinwalker sightings, and they were all just so lame.
Yep.
It was like a deer that, and definitely like rabies, but it's a deer that's just like,
yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, it's a skinwalker. Like,
yeah.
No, it's not. It is just like a weird, like sick, scared animal that doesn't know what's going on.
Totally.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was watching this guy on YouTube. I watch him like basically like lives out in the woods and has never talked about anything like what we talk about. And then it was like, skinwalker encounter.
Okay.
And their story was just like from far away, they just saw someone and they were and they felt creeped out. It was a humanoid like shape. So it was probably just a hiker or some, like that they saw across. It's like, it was like neighboring mountains and they saw it from the other side. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like they were getting closer, but that was not the case. Nothing happened. They didn't come closer. He just saw a hiker, someone on their way. That's it.
Yeah, that's real unfortunate that it has taken such a catch-all place in our culture, where it's just like, anything out in the wild must be a Native American witch, like out to kill people. It's like, if these things exist, they're freaking rare. So you're not just like running into them every time you're out in the woods and you feel creeped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the videos I saw too was like, it was a deer with clearly like a broken neck, but that didn't kill it. And and it's like this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have health care. It just continued on living.
Yeah.
And these people see it and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful.
I mean,
Poor
just
thing.
absolutely insane that people can like watch that and come to the point that like, oh my God, this is something eerie. And not just a stupid deer that has adapted and was able to live through like breaking one of its vertebrae.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Or like there was another one of a dog just seriously just like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's too focused on me. It must be a skinwalker.
yeah. Yeah, skinwalking. I thought this would be a good idea just as a one-off. I don't even think
Yeah. Yeah.
there's like enough to fill 30 minutes with
Yeah.
like
Right.
reasonable points that would like get anyone to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. You might be right. And like, while there are a few a few things about it that I like. Yeah, there's not much because most of it is that exact hokey approach to it. I'm gonna go ahead and say that for myself, skepticism wise, I, in terms of like their reality, like them existing or it being possible for them to exist, I am like I'm like south of halfway. Like, I think they exist, but it's like, I don't know, somewhere between a 2 and a 3. I'm gonna say a 3. Um and basically where I'm at is I think that different practices of, mysticism, or, in something magical, or what we would call magical. I think this like skinwalking ability that is described in the Navajo culture has been achieved, and that people have seen it, and it has become a cautionary tale. But I agree with you that almost everything in modern day that's attributed to skinwalkers is garbage.
Absolutely. Yeah, like the idea of when I read about it on Wikipedia, it was like that a skinwalker is the antithesis to a medicine woman or like
Oh,
medicine
okay.
man or
Yeah,
medicine woman.
totally.
Um, Basically like the gifts that these medicine men or women were able to use in their tribe. It was like if people embrace the dark side of it is what made them like skinwalkers, and they could just
Exactly.
transform into animals and try to just like and just be wicked. I mean,
Yeah.
so I don't I don't buy that the transforming into animals. I can definitely buy like someone like believing that it's evil, like kind of like
Yeah.
going the more evil route and believing like, yeah, sure. Like if you want to label them skinwalkers, do I think that they're shifting? No.
Yeah. I get that. And like one easy workaround for that could be if a particularly like evil practicing medicine person, under the guise of being like a medicine man or whatever, like, lured victims in, offering to help them or whatever, to heal them. And let's say they dosed them with something psychedelic, and they threw on like a wolf
Oh,
pelt and
yeah.
terrorized them. Because like there are, in a lot of cultures, like if you're going to, let's say, eat somebody, or steal value from their soul in some way, like there are benefits to like torturing them. Like the more horrifying the death, or the more tortured the soul, like the better for some of these like evil minded practices. Um, so it's like it could have been spawned from people doing things like that, people truly being
Oh
nasty.
yeah. Yeah.
I do buy somewhat into like the mutative power, like the the transforming thing. I don't like shut out the possibility that that is something that could have been achieved by people. Um, but it is weird because it goes against everything I think. Basically, other things are easier for me to justify because they can all exist within my physical world, within the limits of physics as I know them. Even talking about things like, she's very proud of her fruit pouch. um, Talking about things like remote viewing and whatnot, it's like we do see action at a distance being possible in other realms of physics. So, like, I can imagine mapping that onto like communication. Anyway, other weird things are easier for me to justify, but the idea of like someone's physical, like flesh and bone instantaneously transforming somehow is like, it's chemically impossible. It's just it's physically impossible. It doesn't work in a way that I can explain, but I feel like I have been faced with a few stories that I actually find easier to believe than to deny. And so for that reason, I'm like, I just don't know. Maybe it happens and I just don't understand how. So that's where I'm at with that.
Most of the videos on Skinwalkers I'd seen before had come on TikTok or like Instagram Reels. That was like before actually like searching it. I'm sure that now that I've searched it, it's gonna pop up like even more.
Totally, it will.
But all of the ones that I had seen before were like people making weird, like hearing weird noises, you know, and you just like someone just shrieking for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, that is absolutely just an insane person or someone like trying to creep you out.
Totally.
I mean, I can never just hear that and for like, if I was in that situation, I would think there's an insane person. I'm not thinking there's a skinwalker. Right. And then also, if it actually is a skinwalker, what the hell is their point of like I'm like, a skinwalker's purpose is to just give someone the heebie-jeebies and that's
from
it?
a distance, yeah. Not attack them or anything.
or like the ones where you like, oh yeah, I've seen ones of people like saying their experience where they're just like, I was walking and I heard like, come here, I'm hurt, help. And it's like, okay, if this person is a dog or a coyote or whatever, they're just gonna sit back and hide and then wait for this thing to approach. No,
right.
They would like, it's an animal, it would attack you.
Yep.
And then, you know,
let me give you a story on that one, on that note, with because I agree, like the whole point of being a fierce predator like a wolf or something, or even a coyote, though they're, you know, coyotes are less fierce. The whole point would be to be able to attack someone, right? I would think. Or in the case of like a deer, you know, people supposedly see them walking around as deer. It's like, maybe that's in order to get close to humans without raising suspicion. There's got to be some purpose to it. This is a third-hand account for me, but a guy I know knows really well, that kind of thing. He is a hunter and an outdoorsman, and spends a lot of time out on horseback hunting with his rifle. And on one occasion he was, I don't know that he was hunting, but he was just out, you know, and had his rifle on his side. And he sees out of the corner of his eye, in an opening, like in a place where he had good visibility, he sees out of the corner of his eye something moving that he recognizes the motion as being a coyote, just the way it's crawling. But he said it was like exceptionally big. He's like, this is the biggest coyote I've ever seen. And so he was like, the second it came into his attention, he was like on alert, because he's thinking like, maybe it's rabbit or something, because I think this lone coyote is stalking me and wants to like bite at my horse or something. Just kind of, you know, not shy, like atypical behavior. And so he readies his gun, and as he starts to see it, it continues along his side, and at a certain moment he decides to turn and fire on it. And so I'm going to put you down, baby. There we go. So he turns and fires on it, and he saw and heard the impact. And he said that it let out, and this is one of those details where it's like animals kind of do that, you know what I mean? He said it let out a sound that sounded like a man screaming. Not altogether surprising. Like a lot of animals, when they shout loud enough, it can sound like a person, because I don't know why, but like I've heard animals that sound like humans when they shriek loud enough. So that's like not surprising.
Goats.
Yeah, that's
so
a perfect example. Perfect example. But he says it then gets up and runs off on its hind legs, and his notion of how big it was turned out not to be an illusion. When he turned and fully faced it, like it was just a big old coyote, got up and ran off on 2 legs. And he was creeped out by that. And I think just about everyone he's told that story to has interpreted it as Skinwalker. And anyway, yeah, third-hand account for me. It's not much I can verify about it, including the guy's character or mental capacity or anything. My friend vouches for it in a way that I tend to believe. But yes, predator for the sake of attacking.
That kind of stuff is the stuff that is the most convincing to me.
Sure.
But I still don't buy it.
Right.
I think that this guy is obviously a loon, and like that's just the easiest way for me to
that is the straightest
discount it.
Yeah, straightest point between A and B for sure.
Exactly. But I don't know, if someone told me that story, like if you were out in the woods and then you told me this story, first thing I'd say is, what are you doing in the woods on a horse? Second thing, I guess I would probably believe you if you told me that story. Like, I don't know. I guess I'd ask further questions like, were there any illegal substances involved? Were you drugged?
Right.
Did you just like
eat any mushrooms you didn't recognize?
Yeah. You think it's a portobello and
yeah. No, yeah, that's I think you're right to be skeptical of that one, because aside from the fact that there are things in the story that you would want to question further, it's also just a fourth-hand account to you. And it's like those kinds of things are not good evidence. Like the further they have gone along the telephone game, the less reliable they are. But it's something that I've, I think, invested enough trust in that it informs my opinion slightly. But yeah, that's like, I don't know, that's one story of, I guess, a few that have been slightly impactful to me, but it doesn't truly teach me anything about it or like prove anything to me. But it's just like food for thought kind of thing.
Yeah. Is that the only Skinwalker story, or like any like experience that you've heard, like not firsthand, but just heard from like friend of a friend?
It's not the only one. Another one, which I'd say the only reason I prioritize the other one over this one is because of the circumstances of the sighting. But this other one is secondhand to me. So I talked to the guy who experienced it, and he is a guy whose eyesight and mental capacity I trust. But some factors are, it was at night, so low visibility, in the woods, and it was like amongst like a lot of other animals, he was saying. So, like just harder to isolate maybe. But there was another person there who saw the exact same thing and corroborated it with that person. So it's like that might outweigh the like low visibility and stuff like that. But what these two people saw was the foothills. Well, the mountains are like very accessible where I'm at, so you can like get up into the woods within like 5 minutes of your front door. So these two were out. Let me give some context as to why they were out in the mountains at night, just right outside of town. There's a place that a few of us like to go hike around because it offers some cool views, and there are actually some cool structures in the area. And but we have to be kind of sneaky walking around there because it is private property. But it's a place we like to go visit at night, and it's kind of creepy feeling and stuff like that. Anyway, so while a large group of us were there, but we were kind of dispersed in different areas, two of the guys that were there spotted like a flock of deer, like 6 to 10 deer in the woods. And as they got closer and all the deer started taking off up the hill, they said that they saw behind one of the deer something upright running along with them. And I can't remember if they specifically said it looked human or if it looked like an animal that was upright, but they, human size at least, like 6 feet or whatever, like they just saw these two legs and this upright thing among the herd of deer, like run up the hill. And again, it was just that like that both of them saw it that way. And one of them, I don't know to be a trustworthy person. Like, I don't know them well enough. And like, I don't know whether or not they would mistake something or whether or not they would like try to freak people out by telling the story. The other one, no way. Like, the guy's not telling you anything that he doesn't fully believe he saw with his eyes, independent of what someone else saw. So there are just things about that story that like make me question my own skepticism, though I do have to leave the door open for like, maybe this person's ability to see and interpret under the conditions isn't as good as I think, or something like that. But anyway,
I'd go as far to say that I would believe that it was more of like a Tarzan-esque situation where this
yeah.
this herd of deer raised this man. I would believe that more than I would believe a skinwalker just out, running with the herd.
Chilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it was weird. I'm sure it, I'm sure Skinwalker came to mind for them just because of like where we're at and, because of the commonality of its usage in our culture for things like that.
Skinwalker Ranch is a crazy thing. Have you heard about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's in Utah, right?
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly named, it's not like the type of skinwalkers that we're talking about, really. It's more so for the Native American thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
but there's also like paranormal things, or paranormal things have happened there or tend to happen there.
Right.
But it just happens to have a silly name.
Totally. From my understanding, I might have this wrong, but I want to say that it got the name Skinwalker Ranch because of one incident that the family that lived there in the 90s or maybe earlier experienced, where they basically saw like a big wolf and they tried to track it and they lost it. And I want to say that's the only like skinwalker-ish thing associated with it, but I could be wrong about that. Mostly it's just like weird lights and UAPs and like radiation sickness, like just like weird things.
Yeah, I read something too that it was like cars almost like appear out of nowhere, or like maybe not cars, but like vehicles, and they just like appear out of thin air. I don't know.
Interesting.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Also, I had a thought. The first guy's story that you told, where he shot this skinwalker. Two things. One, that very well, like I guess when I hear these stories, my first thought is to think, how could this be debunked?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I had the thought of, that was like, that might have been a YouTuber playing a prank.
Oh my
God.
gosh.
And they're like in this suit, like, oh my God, we're gonna get this guy, And so they're like sneaking up on him to scare him, and then this guy just turns around and just pops him, and is like, just runs away.
We're gonna get this Daniel Boone Second Amendment guy crawling up in an animal skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
There's no way this guy has a weapon.
Oh, that's
but
funny,
also,
man.
If it really is like, a Daniel Boone type with a gun, and you said it was like a pistol?
No, he had a rifle.
So a rifle. So he turned and shot this thing, and it's like, and starts running.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't have a second shot. Like, he doesn't take the thing out. I don't know. That seems like super unlikely to me, that if this guy's an experienced hunter,
right,
and it was as close as as you're saying,
Hmm.
I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah, someone who's like an experienced hunter has experience with being freaked out by things they weren't expecting and reacting to them appropriately in order to
Exactly.
keep themselves safe. Yeah, I think it was a rifle. Might have been a shotgun, but either way, like it's very possible that he had a repeating firearm that could have shot again. I don't know the exact details, I guess.
Now imagine that, man. Uh, you know, popping it. You pop it once and it's running away. You pop it again. You take it out.
Yeah, dude,
I wonder if
that'd be
people
wild.
like if people have been in that situation where like they were hunting and they say like, "Oh yeah, I saw this crazy deer, skinwalker deer, I shot it," and then, but now it's just a dead deer.
Yeah, right. Or the opposite way where they
I just shot a guy named Reggie. his,
it's like, no,
his
I
license said,
swear it was a skinwalker. I swear.
yeah,
It's like Dwight in The Office. It's like, I shot a werewolf once, but by the time I got to it, it had turned back into my neighbor's dog.
yeah. Oh, that's yeah, that's hilarious.
Oh, man.
So I don't know. I think that there's so little to say about skinwalkers. The topic is so limited um, and so unrealistic to me that
Yeah.
it doesn't merit another another hour of talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
I don't know what we could say
Yep.
besides like watch different stories and just rehash the
Sure.
same point.
Yep. I agree.
Which
It feels really unrealistic, which is why it's one of the ones that like I'm confused about how I feel about it.
yeah, definitely a fringe type.
Hmm.
Um, and probably the one I believe in the least. I mean, honestly, out of all of them, out of all the ones that I don't believe, I think I
Yeah.
believe this one the least.
Yeah. There's something about like physical, like transformation of like a physical body that it's just like, it's really hard to make that work because like if some sort of transmutational power has been unlocked, wouldn't it be more godlike, more on the order of something um extra dimensional, or like it seems like such an
There, yeah,
unattainable thing that it wouldn't be like, oh, hokey medicine man figured out how to do this thing, this like godlike thing, and he's still a hokey medicine man who just wants to turn into an animal and eat people.
yeah, and just kind of like attempt to lure hikers, and that's it.
I think we got to where we need to be. I think you're right. There's not a whole lot to discuss here because of the very little that we even know about the actual Navajo culture traditions about it, and the way in which what little we do know has been bastardized, and this thing has been turned into a catch-all for anything that creeps you out in the woods. There are interesting things about it to me, things like ways in which I could see some reality in some aspects of it, but there's very little to actually discuss, unfortunately.
Yeah. I texted Josh. I asked him, "Do you believe in skinwalkers?" Going to answer or going to read your answer on the pod, and he said, "No, but LOL." But I have a lot of theories on it. Seems like Native Americans have had a lot of interactions with aliens, so I don't rule that out. That's
That's a
kind of a
good point.
cool. That's a cool. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Well, Tom, thanks for doing this on such short notice. It was a good one, even though it's going to be a small episode, and we didn't have a lot of like personal experience to discuss or anything. But like, it was a good one. It was a good one.
Thanks for
Thanks.
tuning in, everyone.
Yeah, and we'll see y'all next time.
Goodbye.